What are some of the scariest crimes that can happen to anyone? Let's find out, starting with number 5, Judge Shooty. Sonya M. McKnight, a judge from Pennsylvania, got herself into a world of trouble after she was accused of busting a cap on her ex-boyfriend Michael McCoy's head while he was asleep, and then trying to convince him he did it to himself, which is bizarre on so many levels, right? Michael had been trying to break it off with Sonya and get her to move out of his house. One night, after he told her yet again that it was over, and she seemed to agree, he went to bed, only to wake up in excruciating pain and blind in one eye. The aftermath was as messy as the act itself. Sonya called 911, playing dumb about what happened, claiming she was asleep too. However, the evidence didn't back up her story. A firearm registered in her name and gunpowder residue on her hands told a different story. Also, Michael was pretty clear from the start. He didn't do this to himself while he was sleeping. The nail in the coffin for Sonya's version of events was a neighbor's doorbell footage showing her leaving the house after she claimed to be asleep when everything happened. She probably claimed she was sleepwalking. Sonya's actions were pretty shocking, since you'd never expect this sort of behavior from a judge, someone who's supposed to uphold the law, not pop caps at it. Her job as a magistrate, which she had since 2016, is obviously on hold, and she's now sitting in jail with bail set at $300,000. The case is such a mess that it's been moved to another county to avoid a conflict of interest. What's equally disturbing is that this wasn't Sonya's first cap-popping incident in a relationship. Back in 2019, she discharged a firearm at her estranged husband during a dispute. That time, she claimed self-defense and got away with it. But now, with Michael getting popped, she's staring down the barrel of up to 40 years in prison if convicted. This saga is a chilling reminder of how things can go terribly wrong when relationships end, especially with someone as unpredictable and trigger-happy as Sonya McKnight. Poor Michael seems to be okay-ish, but the round passed through his temples and took out his right eye for good. It sucks that he lost an eye, but it's better than the alternative considering what happened. And what on earth was Sonya's plan? You'd think that as a judge, she's seen and heard everything, so she'd know exactly what to do to get away with it, right? Like, the story sounds like some TV show your mom watches about a judge who plans to end her relationship permanently. It could be called Final Judgment or something. It's like this show writes itself. Lifetime, if you're watching, we've got some ideas. Number 4, moving movers. Former New York resident Stephanie Wagner got tangled up in a moving nightmare back in December of 2020. She had to hightail it out of New York because her rent was sky high and her business was taking a beating thanks to the pandemic. So she figured she'd stick all her stuff in storage and go to Hawaii to stay with her parents and wait things out. Not a bad plan. Enter gold standard relocation. The supposed movers with smiles as wide as the Mississippi River. They hooked her in with a sweet deal and promises of smooth sailing. But come moving day, they ghosted her until the last minute, showing up late with a laundry list of surprise charges, including a mysterious weather fee and accusations of having more stuff than anticipated. Feeling like she had no choice, Stephanie coughed up the cash and jetted off to Hawaii, trusting her belongings were safe and sound in storage. But little did she know, these movers weren't ordinary movers, and she had walked right into a scammer's trap. Months passed in Hawaii, which is an easy thing to have happen if you've ever been to Hawaii, and Stephanie decided to extend her storage contract, only to find out that Gold Standard had pulled a vanishing act, and her stuff was nowhere to be found. Turns out, she had been duped by a moving broker who outsourced the job to a shady outfit called the New Era Relocation, whose owner had inconveniently passed away. So, Stephanie, armed with a tenacious lawyer, went ready to battle whoever these crooks were, but it was like chasing ghosts. Gold Standard and New Era vanished into thin air, leaving her high and dry. In the end, she managed to wrangle about $10,000 from a settlement, but it was a drop in the bucket compared to the $50,000 she owed her folks for legal fees alone. Nowadays, Stephanie's still stuck crashing with her parents in Hawaii. Well, as stuck as you can be living in Hawaii, hustling odd jobs like virtual lactation sessions and Uber Eats deliveries just to scrape by. And her stuff? Still MIA. She's penned letters to every bigwig in Washington, hoping someone will shine a light on these moving scammers. It's been a roller coaster of depression and disillusionment for Stephanie, who feels like she's fighting a losing battle. But she's not backing down. She's determined to expose these crooks and make sure nobody else gets taken for a ride. The lesson here is that you should always just take a bit of time to look into the company you're hiring to move all of your belongings. Granted, it sounds like Stephanie maybe got the screws turned on her a little when moving day came, but missing a flight is still cheaper than replacing everything you own. Number 3, grab and dash. There's this unnamed guy from Melbourne, Australia, who's allegedly a serial scammer that's been going on this wild scamming spree for like 4 months. He's using Facebook Marketplace to pull off these sneaky moves, tricking folks into selling him stuff, and then he'd pull the old snatch and grab. And this guy ended up facing a whopping 65 charges. One of the guy's signature moves was one he used when snatching a $2,000 high-end phone. There's footage of this whole thing, showing him meeting up with these two dudes like he's all interested in buying the phone, but then he just grabs it and bolts down the street like he's Usain Bolt. Now, you may think this is some high-tech heist, but nah, not really. These scams are just good old-fashioned confidence tricks. The advice of always meeting in public, bringing some buddies, and being on high alert is worth repeating. Scams like these are on the rise, with folks losing loads of cash. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission's Scam Watch service got over 300,000 reports in 2023 and lost were over $480 million, which is crazy when you think about how many items had to have been stolen to reach that amount. So the lesson here is to be careful out there, especially when dealing with online sales. People still out here doing dash and grab, so watch your back and maybe double check those buyer profiles. You never know who's lurking behind that screen, ready to swipe your stuff and disappear into the digital abyss. Our Captain Obvious advice, as obvious as it is worth repeating. Do these sorts of deals where there are a lot of people, bring a friend or two, and be on the lookout. Number 2, the new Nigerian prince. Renato Kalalang was just your average 60-year-old, close to retirement guy who had been working his tail off for the last 4 decades, saving up for his golden years. He had roughly 150 grand he had stashed away for his retirement. But then, one day, Renato gets this email explaining that his cousin in the Philippines, whom he had never met, had passed and left him an inheritance. There was even an attached death certificate. So Renato's thinking, cha-ching! The scammer, going by the name Steve Golds, claimed he's got a bank in Manila that Renato's sitting on 3.8 million euros. But of course, there's a catch. Renato's got to fork over some cash to get the ball rolling, which should sound a little familiar. So Renato, being the trusting guy he is, starts shelling out cash left and right. He even chats up one of these scammers on the phone who sounded all official-like. Renato was transferring money left and right, thinking he's about to hit the jackpot. As the days went on and his bank account was dwindling, something started not to add up. When the pieces eventually did add up, reality hit him hard. Renato realized he was played like a fiddle, so he freaked out and called the cops, Scamwatch, and his bank, Commonwealth Bank. Now Renato's out of luck and out of pocket. Commonwealth Bank couldn't recover squat, and Renato's left high and dry. Poor guy had been banking with them for 40 years, and they treated him like just another number, which is kind of what these banks do. Poor Renato was dreaming of kicking back in his retirement, but unfortunately now he's living paycheck to paycheck. This scam sounds like a new spin on the classic Prince of Nigeria scam that was a thing in the early 2000s. Only now it's a cousin and there's some sort of documentation. Please let your elderly loved ones know about this scam since they seem to get targeted the most. If it sounds like a trope from some 80s comedy, it's probably a scam or an opportunity. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay right here for our past release to find out how this former boy band member turned a fraud. Number 1, squatters decided to sue the actual homeowners because why not? Homeowners Dennis and Julia, whose last names are withheld, dropped a whopping $530,000 on a rental property, but as soon as they were getting ready to rent it out, boom! Locks were changed, and who's inside? Lance Hunt Jr. and Rondi L. Francis, living it up with a flat screen TV, mattresses, and even a massage table. These dudes claimed they are the legal tenants, but turned out that they were just squatting. So Dennis and Julia understandably pissed, took them to court. But the squatters also hired a lawyer to sue Dennis and Julia back, because everyone can sue everyone for anything. Fast forward to an emergency lockout hearing, and things get wild. Dennis and Julia's lawyer calls out the squatters for pulling a fraud. But guess what? One of the squatters bails because he's got to work. Right, sure you do. Turns out he was just trying to avoid a trip to the slammer. Meanwhile, the real estate broker who had discovered 3 freeloaders when she went for a routine site check, Ijana Barty, was out playing detective. She caught these guys in the act, watched them changing their locks a second time, and she even called the cops. But the police somehow bought their story that they were just YouTubers, but the men agreed to leave anyway. But they weren't done. The squatters returned, but Barty wasn't having it, so she called the cops again. But this time, armed with a lease she signed. But these squatters weren't dumb. Well, they were, but not like super dumb. Just the regular amount of criminal stupid. And they came prepared with a poorly forged lease that they handed over, spelling Barty's name wrong and everything. Dennis and Julia were just trying to earn a little extra income, renting to people in a city where it's tough to find housing. And these squatters trashed the place, leaving behind a stench of the devil's lettuce and scuff marks all over. Plus, they had the nerve to change the circuit breakers and even got Spectrum installed. Here's the weird part though. The squatters actually had the audacity to sue Dennis and Julia. They even brought a whole entourage to court, making it impossible to tell who was who, and they refused to show their IDs. It's like a bad sitcom. Then Lance Hunt Sr., the dad of one of the squatters, fell out of the nut tree, claiming his son got a raw deal. Like, seriously? His kid squatting in someone's house and his son got the wrong deal. We're not entirely sure what the raw deal Lance was referring to, but there you have it. The deal was apparently undercooked, and people should feel bad for him. These squatters ended up stalling out the whole court process, leaving Dennis and Julia high and dry. They couldn't even let their legit tenants move in because it would mess up the legal mess these squatters created. As of this video, the case is still ongoing, so we don't know if the squatters were successful with their lawsuit or if they were forced to squat elsewhere. We're about to ask the question, who's smarter, a box of rocks or these dumb criminals? Let's find the answer, starting with number 7. Pretty Ricky, pretty scammy. Diamond Blue Smith, better known by his stage name Baby Blue, was a member of the hip-hop group Pretty Ricky. However, his fame was overshadowed by his involvement in a massive COVID-19 fraud. In 2020, Smith faced federal charges for defrauding the government of over $24 million in coronavirus relief funds. Smith's charges included wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy. According to the Department of Justice, he used falsified documents to obtain a Paycheck Protection Program loan for his company, ThrowbackJersey.com, for over $425,000 and another for more than $700,000 for his other company, Blue Star Records. The investigation revealed that Smith was part of a larger operation that convinced others to file fraudulent applications for the relief funds as well, and he allegedly received kickbacks on those too. In total, the scheme involved about 90 fraudulent applications, amounting to over $24 million, with approved loans totaling $17.4 million. But rather than using the money for legitimate purposes, Smith indulged in luxury purchases. This extravagant spending further strengthened the case against him. In 2020, Smith was arrested and pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. He was originally looking at 20 years, but was sentenced to only 20 months in federal prison instead, which he began serving in February 2022. The shortened sentence and the number of people implicated in the scam led many to believe that Baby Blue was a cheese-eating baby blue rat. Throughout his legal battle, Smith used social media as a platform to defend himself and deny any involvement in ratting on others, but in a kind of whiny way. He was adamant that he could never be a snitch, talking about his respect for his ancestors and the implications of such actions. We guess the massive fraud was something his ancestors would be fine with. Then, days before he headed off to prison, Smith also posted a message with his address at the facility, along with his prisoner number, just in case anyone wanted to send him anything, like a comfort blanket or something, we're sure. Gangsters need love too, you know. Moreover, Smith gave permission to the women he was dating to move on for Valentine's Day since he was going to be in timeout, which was a bit dramatic and and it's not like these women needed his permission anyway. February 2023, Smith was released after serving a little over a year of his sentence. He returned to his music career and announced that he would be changing his name to Big Money Blue, which reminded us that the blue Monopoly money was the 50s, so it seems appropriate. Smith said the name change symbolized his determination to focus on earning legitimate wealth and leaving his past behind. Also, hopefully turning literally blue. Additionally, Big Money revealed that he had written a book sharing his experiences and lessons learned during his time behind bars. A little caged wisdom, if you will. However, despite his release, Smith isn't entirely off the hook. He still owes over $1 million in restitution, and his legal troubles continue to follow him. That name change to Big Money Blue. Let's just hope he'll be able to make a positive contribution to society first and worry about the big money later. Number 6. Let's scam billionaires. Stephanie Hunter, a mother of 2 from Spring, Texas, attempted to steal the identities of billionaires, including Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta. Hunter was buying personal information, including social security numbers, for just $10 on the dark web. Despite being accused of these high-profile identity theft attempts, Hunter said she had no idea of who her victims were. However, her actions suggested a targeted approach, as she also attempted to target other wealthy individuals like Walmart heiress Alice Walton. The investigation revealed that Hunter had used Fertitta's information to open credit cards in his name, including a Capital One bank account and a line of credit at a furniture store called Conn's. The combined worth of these credit lines was about $20,000. When Hunter was asked why she did it, she said she just wanted money for home goods, but never actually made any purchases. She dismissed the whole ordeal as a spur-of-the-moment mistake and said she felt bad and that it wasn't something she normally did. Hunter's criminal record showed several previous arrests, including charges for theft and possession of those funny green plants. You know what we're talking about. Hunter was released on a $10,000 bond, but she may face additional charges as the investigation continues. You'd think billionaires would have really great identity protection, right? They caught her pretty fast, so it must be okay, but still, it's pretty wild that she even got their info at all. Why she'd target people who pay other people to watch their money is beyond us. Number 5. Worst guys to hire. Maddie Rossiter, James Rossiter, and Dean Smith were a group of phony contractors who ran a messed up scam targeting elderly homeowners. They managed to make a total of £45,000 from crimes committed on 18 properties across the UK by knocking on the doors of elderly people and convincing them that their roofs needed repair. Then they would overcharge by thousands of pounds and deliver tremendously shoddy workmanship. The trio actually posted a video of themselves straight up mocking John Bray, an elderly homeowner, right to his face as they replaced only a handful of tiles on his roof. The video showed the guys laughing at John and making fun of his age while bragging about their scamming and how they were charging him a ridiculous £8,000. The poor quality of their work was evident when a chartered surveyor called for by Wiltshire trading standards described it as abysmal. The repairs were carried out without any skill or competence, and it was likely done without the use of appropriate tools, or a conscience apparently. Sadly, the consequences of their actions went beyond financial loss. John Bray's son Steve revealed that the shame and embarrassment his parents felt due to the fraud likely contributed to his mother's passing. The emotional toll on the victims was devastating, and the behavior of these guys, which they flaunted in the video, only added to the pain and suffering they caused. In court, Maddie Rossiter and James Rossiter admitted to fraud by false representation and participating in a fraudulent business. Maddie Rossiter was just 16 years old during the time of the offenses and was only sentenced to 2 years and 3 months in prison, while James Rossiter received a 3-year and 4-month sentence. Dean Smith, the third member of the group, also pleaded guilty to participating in fraudulent business and was also sentenced to 3 years in prison. Can someone post a video of their first day in prison since they were so into mocking old people? Number 4. Broken promises. Jennifer McBride allegedly participated in the theft of Lady Gaga's French bulldogs, Koji and Gustav. The singer had offered a $500,000 reward for the safe return of her purebred pups, no questions asked, after they were stolen from her dog walk. The dog walker, Ryan Fisher, was ambushed in Los Angeles late one night while walking the singer's Frenchies. 2 men attacked Fisher, and when he resisted, one of the assailants discharged a firearm, grievously injuring Fisher. McBride claims that she was the one who returned the dogs to Gaga, bringing them to the LAPD Ski Olympic Community Station just 2 days after the reward was announced. According to her, Gaga had promised to pay the substantial sum without asking any questions if her dogs were brought back unharmed. However, McBride's association with the case goes beyond simply returning the stolen dogs. She was later charged in connection to the theft, accused of receiving stolen property and being an accessory to the crime. Since the return of the dogs, McBride has taken legal action against Lady Gaga. She sued the pop star for $1.5 million, alleging that Gaga failed to fulfill the promised reward, leading to McBride to seek damages. The primary perpetrator, James Howard Jackson, who was identified by the police, pleaded no contest to his charges and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. Fortunately, Ryan Fisher survived his injuries, although the incident was undoubtedly a traumatic experience for him. Despite all that's happened, it appears that the dog walker has made a great recovery and is doing okay today. However, the legal consequences for McBride are ongoing, since it was discovered that McBride was dating the father of Jackson, so she had a direct connection to the crime. The fact that she thinks a judge is going to award her money is insane, considering such a ruling would only encourage copycat crimes. Number 3. The backpack. Anya Pratt, a Las Vegas woman, found herself in legal trouble after being accused of orchestrating a theft at the Encore at Wynn, Las Vegas. A man reported that his hotel room had been robbed, resulting in the disappearance of a large amount of cash and valuables. The man realized that his backpack containing $50,500 in cash had gone missing, along with his Patek Philippe watch worth another $50,000. The victim had remembered meeting Pratt at a bar and later inviting her back to his room, but his memory became hazy after that. Surveillance footage from the hotel showed the man going back to his room with Pratt around 3:30 in the morning, with the watch still on his wrist. However, by 6:30 a.m., the same woman was seen on video leaving in a black Nissan Altima registered to Pratt. Police then executed a search warrant at Pratt's apartment where they found items resembling those worn by the woman in the surveillance footage. Pratt was identified as the woman who accompanied the victim to his room, leading to her arrest. Despite her arrest, the stolen watch and the missing cash remain unrecovered, leaving the victim at a significant loss. And look, we're not saying it was okay what she did, or that he even had it coming. But why on earth would you leave that much money in a backpack in your hotel room with a stranger instead of in a safe? She definitely deserves to be punished, but the guy was clearly a moron. Number 2. Unsafe. Mackenzie Long was accused of stealing stacks of cash from an unlocked safe in a hotel room. The incident occurred when the alleged victim and his friends met Long and another woman on the casino floor, exchanging phone numbers and eventually meeting up in the hotel room where the safe was. But the group didn't bother locking the safe, leaving their cash and passports exposed. After spending some time together at the hotel's pool, Long and the other woman suddenly disappeared, quickly raising suspicion. Upon returning to the room, the group discovered the safe was still open and their money and passports were missing, and boy were they surprised. In total, Long managed to steal approximately 15,000 Canadian dollars, which are a lot like US dollars but with better manners, along with a laptop and passports. Adding to her legal troubles, Long was arrested for being paid adult company at the area on a separate occasion. She's now facing charges of residential burglary, possession of documents to commit forgery, grand larceny, conspiracy to commit grand larceny, and loitering for the purpose of paid adult stuff. At least these guys got it half right by putting their valuables in the safe, but someone should tell them that safes only work if you lock them. Otherwise, it's just a heavy box with expensive stuff that people can just take. Number 1. Just couldn't wait. 3 friends from Las Vegas, Prince Bracy, Asha Harrison Grady, and Eudacia Thomas Gray, were arrested and accused of stealing over $140,000 worth of cash, jewelry, and valuables from a hotel room at the Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas. According to police reports, 3 tourists met Asha Harrison Grady at the Harbor Island Apartments nearby and invited her to their room at the Serene Hotel. He handed over his room key to Asha, always a smart thing to do with people you don't know, and asked her to retrieve his wallet with $2,000 cash from his room at the Virgin. How could this go bad, you might be wondering? When Asha returned, she claimed that the wallet was empty. And you almost can't blame her though, right? Again, we're not saying it's okay, but jeez, if that's not asking to be ripped off. The tourist became suspicious over the missing cash and contacted the police. During questioning, Harrison Grady admitted that Prince Bracy and Eudacia Thomas Gray were also involved in the theft. According to her statement, the trio stole basically everything the tourist brought, including a Louis Vuitton backpack American purse, 3 luxury watches, 2 pairs of Beats by Dre headphones, sunglasses, jeans, polo shirts, car keys, a pair of Jordans, and a bag containing $40,000 in cash. Police later apprehended Bracey and Thomas Gray as they were walking down Paradise Road, one of the main Las Vegas roads just off the main strip. Bracey was found wearing one of the stolen watches as well as the Jordans, and he had several $100s in cash. The 3 suspects were charged with burglary and grand larceny. Prince Bracey just couldn't wait to show off all of his stolen stuff, as if anyone, such as the police, were going to believe that the watch he was wearing was his. It's not like it was a Timex or something. Not knocking Timex at all, but it's definitely not on the price level of a Rolex. Basically, he was just confessing to the crime by wearing the watch while the police were looking for him. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather have: no crimes in society or zero corruption in the government.